Chairman.
Oh, the honourable member, Dr. David Clark, again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a little more to say about the pro-growth tax reform, the opportunity for which has been missed in this bill. I was disappointed that Mr. Goldsmith, as FEC chair, didn't have a little more substance to add to the debate. He may be very dry as an economist. He may have written some historically worthy tax books, but unfortunately today he was merely spouting the government line and not really showing the underlying flint and intellect which we have come to expect of him as a promising one day to be minister in a national government probably decades away after a very long, fair and opportune Labour-led government. That sentiment aside, the 2010 tax swindle to which my colleague Megan Woods has referred is really the thing that we are affirming today. I think we need to put it in terms that simple. It is the national government's policy to drive a wedge between the very wealthiest New Zealanders and the rest of New Zealand. And they've done it quite successfully. In 2010, they put through tax law that drove that wedge hard. And here we are today, in this bill, reaffirming that policy as a parliament, effectively. This government has not been bold enough to chop down those changes, to say, actually, we think we need a fairer system. We need to make sure that we have some way of driving growth in the economy. Let's not forget, Mr. Chairman, that we have had a dream run in terms of dairy commodity prices internationally. New Zealand has benefited from the high primary produce prices. We have had trading partners, our biggest trading partners, who have avoided recession in the likes of China and Australia. New Zealand should be booming. New Zealand should have been booming for the last X years, but this government has squandered that opportunity. They've been so focused on shoveling money towards the wealthiest New Zealanders that middle New Zealand and those who are struggling most have been squashed and pressed and not able to get ahead, and here they are trying to do it again. Well, Mr. Chairman, it is important that we speak out against this, that we speak in favour of fairness and opportunity and in favour of pro-growth tax reform that will actually grow the economy and that can then be shared for the benefit of all New Zealanders. We're also missing in this bill the opportunity for research and development tax credits, the likes of which Labour has put forward, the opportunity for businesses to access tax credits for developing ideas that will create a new and innovative economy in this country. That government opposite seems to have given it all away. One reason we know that this government has struggled to implement or even propose these changes, of course, is that the IRD computer system is simply not up to the task. This government was told when they came to office 5 years ago that the first computer system, the legacy computer system, was on its last legs. It was built in 1992, Mr. Chairman. The internet was still in nappies. Google didn't exist in 1992, members of the House will know. And Facebook was more than a decade away. And that is when New Zealand's tax system was invented, was implemented. The one that we are using today, the computer system that is in use in the IRD, was put in place in 1992. It's been on its last legs for quite some time, and this government has done very, very little about it. 2 years ago, John Key said, and I'll quote, "The Prime Minister said tax policy was being held back because the computer systems, quote, can't actually support radical changes from government," end quote. He said that on Valentine's Day 2 years ago. The Prime Minister said you don't want to be in a position where Parliament is held hostage to a lack of technology. He was giving a nod in the direction of sorting this problem out. 2 years on, 2 Valentine's Days have passed, and the Prime Minister's Valentine's promise appears to have been broken. He showered bouquets here and there in an effort to try and remedy this problem with our tax system. $50 million has been spent on international consultants to look at the tax problem, and do you know what conclusion, Mr. Chairman, these people have come to? After 2 years and $50 million, they have come to the conclusion in principle, that the tax system needs fixing. They were told this 5 years ago, Mr. Chairman, by the IRD, that, Mr. Chairman, that the tax system, the computer system, needed upgrading. It was built in 1992. 5 years ago, this government were told it needed upgrading. $50 million later, 2 years after the Prime Minister said you don't want to be held hostage to it, they've spent $50 million on consultants and they've agreed in principle that it needs to be fixed. Mr. Chairman, this is a flagrant waste of taxpayer money. A flagrant waste. They have gone one step further than agreeing in principle that it should be fixed. They're also now saying that they will build some more business cases. Some more business cases, Mr. Chairman. They'll spend some more million building business cases. This government is sitting on its hands, not repairing the IRD's broken computer system, and therefore they cannot implement the kind of pro-growth tax reform that is necessary to take New Zealand ahead, to grow the economy, to share those proceeds fairly. This government has been sitting on their hands and not doing anything about it. That, Mr. Chairman, is a sad indictment on this government. It is a government that is so tied up in scandals, in dealing with corporate bailouts of the likes of Sky City for their casino deal, for the Rio Tinto, the $30 million, and so on, with Chorus looking at deals there, that it is not focused on fixing the basics, the tax system that actually implements the decisions of this Parliament. And so we'll see when we get to later parts of the bill that other deadlines are being pushed out because this tax computer system is in disrepair. It is long past its due-by date, and this government has done nothing about it, to their shame. Mr. Chairman, that is part of the reason why, even if they wanted to make a fairer tax system, they cannot. It's clearly not a priority for this government. They need a wake-up call. They need to understand that ordinary New Zealanders do want tax policy that grows the economy and that gives people the chance to get ahead, that's fair, so that everybody pays their fair share of tax, as indeed most countries in the OECD have in place already. New Zealand is a real outlier in not having a comprehensive tax system and having this loophole for property speculators. We sit outside the OECD norm. The OECD tells us this, the Treasury tells us this, every respectable economist tells us this, but this government knows better. It's protecting vested interests, and that is to its shame. And ordinary New Zealanders, middle New Zealand, is struggling to get ahead. They're working hard, they're doing the right thing, but they don't feel like they can get ahead. And this government is out of touch if it thinks that the current settings we're affirming here today should not be challenged. They certainly should, because New Zealanders deserve a fairer deal. Every New Zealander deserves the opportunity to get ahead, and that goes for the people down in Dunedin, in the wonderful electorate of Dunedin North, as I'm sure it goes right up to Kaitaia, Mr. Chairman. We are not the only country in the Western world with a tax system. These people in the government across here need to accord fixing it the highest priority, and they need to stop spending tens of millions of dollars on international consultants who simply tell them that in principle things need fixing. They've had that message before, they've had that message now again. Mr. Chairman, I look forward to seeing progress on that issue so that we can have tax policy that is fair and that allows all New Zealanders the opportunity to get ahead. I also look forward later in this bill to discussing the delays in child support legislation, because it is true that that is an embarrassment for the government and it is inconveniencing New Zealanders. I look forward to hearing more from the government as to why it is needing to do these delays, because they must have excuses, but I can assure you, Mr. Chairman, they will only be excuses. They won't be things that New Zealanders want to hear. New Zealanders are sick and tired of hearing that they are a low priority for this government, that only the wealthiest have their interests protected, and that ordinary New Zealanders shouldn't be afforded the opportunity that everyone else at the very top of the heap is afforded when it comes to getting ahead for themselves, for their families and for their communities. When Labour is in government, we will implement a capital gains tax that drives this economy forward, that moves money from the speculative sector into the real productive economy, that creates jobs, that makes sure that economic growth is shared fairly, that the gap between rich and poor, which has grown and grown and grown and grown under this government, is stopped, that we have an economy that grows and shares the benefits fairly with all New Zealanders, so that all New Zealanders have the opportunity to work hard and get ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Andrew Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I take a call on behalf